My name is Karen. I'm a housewife who married into a farming family. Having been married to Michael for 20 years, my days are filled with farm work and household chores from dawn till dusk, but it's not all that bad. Hey, Karen. This soup stock, you used instant powder, didn't you? You should be making the stock from scratch. Seriously, Karen has a talent for making awful meals. The sarcasm from my mother-in-law, Dorothy, and Michael pales in comparison to the busyness of farm work and chores. I'm amazed at how they can find the energy to complain about the soup I make every day. Ugh. This is so bad, I'm throwing it away. Hey, Dorothy. Dorothy ends up throwing the soup she and Michael were eating into the kitchen sink. It's been 20 years of marriage. This kind of harassment is an everyday occurrence. Still, there's a reason why I don't divorce Michael. Grandma, that's a bit too much. In the kitchen, our daughter, Grace, spoke up to Dorothy. Grace is 17 years old this year. She's mine and Michael's child. Grace, I can't let you eat such lazy cooking. Understand that? Yeah, right. Mom, come here for a sec. Grace. What, you're going to ignore your grandma? Ignoring Dorothy, Grace took me out to the hallway. And then, she said, "We should leave this place. But, this is your home too. Not this again. Forget it, I'm going to school. What about breakfast? I don't want to eat with those people." With that, Grace stormed off to her room upstairs. It seems Grace is not satisfied with my response. What should I do? Gazing at the stairs, all I could do was mutter to myself. I think it's best for Grace if we manage to get along in this house. But, a few days later, an incident occurred. I need to talk. I might be sick. A few days later, I told Michael. I had received a notice for a re-examination after a cancer screening. Oh, that might be for the best. What? Is he actually happy that his wife might be sick? Then, with a smirk, Michael showed me an image on his phone. It was a picture of Michael embracing a young woman, both in a compromising state. Michael, is this? Well, it's what you'd call an affair in society. She's young and cute, right? What are you talking about? That's disgusting. I couldn't help but shout in response to Michael's words. What? You got a problem with it? But this is. If you have a problem, we're getting a divorce. Get out. Ouch. Michael pushed me away and hurled insults at me. Michael. Forgetting the grace of being supported by this household. It's common sense for a wife to turn a blind eye to her husband's affairs. But an affair is a clear act of infidelity. It's your fault for not being attractive. Michael firmly retorted to my argument. What the? What's this all about? Startled by Michael's angry voice, Dorothy came over. Mom, listen to this. Karen is being utterly unreasonable. My husband proudly admitted to his affair and claimed that my opposition to it was unreasonable, appealing to Dorothy. Even Dorothy, who's always lenient with her son, would surely take my side this time. How foolish I was to think so even for a moment. After hearing Michael's side, Dorothy said, "That's Karen's fault." What? It's normal for a husband to have a mistress. It's narrow-minded not to accept that. Think about Michael, who you're blaming. I was speechless at Dorothy's statement. Wouldn't Dorothy dislike being cheated on herself? Dorothy, would you be okay if your late husband had a mistress? Since you're a failure as a wife, it's only pitiful if Michael doesn't have a mistress. I was dumbfounded by Dorothy's statement. And then, Michael said this to me. Exactly. I'm going on a trip abroad with her tomorrow. Don't slack off on the housework and chores while I'm gone. Michael, is that? Shut up. Who needs a sick woman anyway? I was speechless at Michael's words. I can no longer continue as his wife. But if we divorced, and Grace ended up staying in this house. The thought made me shudder. I must avoid that at all costs. However, the situation would take an unexpected turn. Please, let's get a divorce. I'm begging you. At dinner that day, I was begging to Michael. Mom. Glancing at Grace, who was staring at me in shock, I continued. I've endured for Grace's sake. But I can't forgive an affair. I'll take Grace and leave this house. Wait a minute. Grace is my granddaughter. If she's your granddaughter, why not have Michael's girlfriend bear one for you? Wait, Dad. Are you really having an affair? Grace. Don't be fooled by this woman. It's normal for a husband to have a mistress, and it's abnormal for a wife not to tolerate it. Grandma, please just be quiet for a moment. Even Dorothy fell silent when Grace firmly stood her ground. I won't pay any alimony. Even if you call it an affair, there's no evidence. You can't sue me. Michael's gleeful laughter brought my anger to a boiling point. But I couldn't afford to get emotional here. I had to make sure, at all costs, that Grace would come with me. I don't need alimony. But I'm taking Grace with me. And from now on, please stay out of our lives.
Ha!
Like a useless woman like you could support Grace. That's right. We're not giving Grace to you. I'll stay with Dad and Grandma. It'll probably be more convenient that way. What? Grace. Mom, you might be sick, right? If I go with you after the divorce, I'd just be a burden. Well. Grace, unlike your mother, you have a good head on your shoulders. Well said, Grace. Grace. I was stunned by Grace's words. But then, Grace whispered to me. Mom, escape while Dad is on his overseas trip. I'll handle the rest. Grace. It's okay. Everything will work out. I'll explain the details later. With that, Grace smiled. I nodded to Grace in agreement. After that, I took the opportunity to return to my parents' house while Michael and Dorothy were out. Michael called me several times to come back, but I ignored him. And when I went to the hospital for a re-examination, I found out that I had early-stage breast cancer. I reported this to Michael over the phone. Michael, it turns out I am sick. So, you were defective after all. Fine, let's get a divorce. Understood. But I'll be taking custody. You, being worthless, can't possibly support Grace. I couldn't respond to Michael's words. Grace will be fine even if she stays with Michael. We have a plan we've discussed together. If it succeeds, there won't be any problems, and I can live with Grace. That's right. I'm going on another trip abroad with my girlfriend, so you'll have to take care of the house. If you don't come, Grace will have to do the farm work alone. Mom's coming on the trip with us. I clenched my teeth and endured the anger. It's okay, our plan is progressing smoothly. But I was about to be hospitalized. I couldn't go back to Michael's family home. Would it be okay if my brother Edward went there instead? I need to be hospitalized. Useless wife. Fine, I'll make an exception. Thank you, Michael. I smiled to myself at Michael's words. With this, our plan will be successful. Thus, I divorced Michael while leaving Grace in his care. With the help of my parents, I managed to get through my treatment. A year has passed since then. I've managed to find a job and now live alone in an apartment near my parents' house. I haven't seen Grace for a year because I was hospitalized. I wonder if Grace is doing okay. As I murmured this, there was a loud knocking at the front door. Karen, you're in there, aren't you? Help, please, Karen. What? Michael, Dorothy. When I opened the door, there stood Michael and Dorothy, tears streaming down their faces. What do you want now? Ignoring my cold reception, the two of them started making a scene right at the entrance. Please, stop Grace. We were wrong, so please tell Grace not to sue us. What happened? And please, not here. We have neighbors. Oh, sorry. Yes, we went too far. The two of them said, looking embarrassed and shrugging their shoulders. Come in first. Then we'll talk. Michael and Dorothy hesitantly entered my apartment. And then, I was about to hear an astonishing story from the two of them. Grace has left home. What? And she's not listening to us about not suing us. Meaning? Well, here's what happened. They explained what had happened with Grace. Grace had left home with evidence of Michael's affair and a cash card in my name that Michael had hidden. So, where is Grace now? She's with Edward. Seriously? My brother Edward is a lawyer. It seemed that Grace had gone to consult with Edward about suing Michael for his affair. Have you had any contact from Edward or Grace? No. I haven't heard anything. Listen. If they say anything, make sure they don't sue us. Oh, okay. Remember that. That's your duty as a wife. But I'm already divorced from Michael. Really? Just when I thought I could start a new family with my girlfriend, Grace has to go and ruin everything. If Grace contacts you, make sure you tell her not to sue us. What happened to their submissive attitude just now? As soon as they realized I didn't know the situation, they reverted to their usual way of speaking to me. Hey. The train fare. What? We came all the way from afar, so it's only natural you pay for our transportation. Okay, got it. Fearing trouble from resisting, I offered $100 to the two of them. Michael and Dorothy snatched it and left. Mom. Are you doing okay? After they left, I received a call from Grace. The plan worked, didn't it? Yeah. I took the evidence of the affair and the cash card Dad had hidden in your name. Where are you now? I'm at Edward's place. When Edward saw the evidence of the affair I brought, he couldn't help but smile with satisfaction. Hearing Grace's cheerful voice made me burst into laughter as well. I never imagined you'd come up with something like this. Even when Edward and I looked for evidence of the affair a year ago, we couldn't find any. That's what I told you, right? Everything would work out. But how did you manage to gather the evidence? It was easy. Dad didn't put a lock on his phone. So I was able to secretly get hold of the correspondence and pictures with his mistress that would serve as evidence. But your dad and I are already divorced. I wonder if we can still demand alimony. I asked Edward about that too, and he said it's fine. There's a 3-year statute of limitations after the divorce. And as long as it hasn't passed, it's entirely possible to claim alimony. I see. So that's why you stayed with Dad, to help out with this. I didn't want to see Mom suffer because of Dad. I wanted to make him suffer so he'd learn his lesson. Otherwise, he'll never reflect on his affair. I understand. I won't let your efforts go to waste. Indeed, Grace had stayed with Michael to gather evidence of his affair and reclaim the savings Michael had taken from me. Now we just have to finish this off. Right. But this was the beginning of a new challenge. After that, I consulted with Edward and prepared to file for alimony. When we sent the demand for alimony through a certified letter, Michael called me in a rage. What do you mean by demanding alimony? Don't mess with me. I'm sorry, but considering Grace's future and everything, I thought it best to settle things with you. That's why I had the certified letter sent. What do you mean, settle things? And where's Grace? I don't see why I need to tell you that. I had become able to firmly respond to Michael's yelling. So, I'll be expecting the alimony payment, thank you. There's no way I'm paying. I'll sue you for being a worthless wife. Be ready for that. Michael said that, but I had already anticipated such a move. Edward and I decided to also claim alimony from Michael's mistress. This is legally permissible, as the responsibility for alimony due to affairs and cheating also falls on the partner involved. Michael's mistress was living with her parents, so the certified letter was undoubtedly seen by her family as well. Ladies and gentlemen, you can imagine what happened next. I'm truly, truly sorry. The mistress contacted Edward's law office in tears after reading the certified letter. Her parents were furious and told her to use all her savings to repay the alimony. She begged Edward for a reduction in the amount. Of course, he refused. Edward managed to get the mistress's parents to agree to pay the full amount of alimony. As for Michael, he was left to walk the path of ruin on his own. Though he blustered about suing me, he couldn't find a lawyer, and his plan fell through. It seems his relationship with the mistress also turned sour because of the alimony. And Dorothy? She was so mentally affected by the whole situation that she suffered a cerebral hemorrhage and became in need of care. Now, I must tell you what happened to Grace and me. Mom, I'm off. Take care. Grace is currently working part-time while attending a night high school from my apartment to save up for college. The alimony will be used for Grace's educational expenses. Of course, Michael has contacted me several times asking for reconciliation. You guys. I'll forgive you, so come back. Otherwise, you'll regret it. Every time he threatened me like this, I recorded the call and consulted with Edward, my lawyer brother. We filed a report for being threatened. As expected, Michael also tried to contact Grace. I'm your guardian, you know. Do you have any idea what happens when you disrespect me? Yeah. I'm glad you're not my guardian. I wouldn't want to live with a crappy dad like you. What? What do you mean by that? When I talked to you about the custody, you said, do whatever you want. So, I had Mom become my guardian. But Dad. You were always off on trips abroad with your mistress, hardly listening to what Edward had to say. I won't accept that. Don't mess with me. Then, why don't you check the family registry? You'll probably find that my last name has been changed to Mom's maiden name. With that, Grace hung up the phone. Undeterred, Michael kept calling, threatening, if you don't give me the custody, I won't let you off easy. As a result, Michael was investigated by the police on suspicion of making threats. Being his first offense, he was not prosecuted. However, rumors that he was arrested by the police have spread around the neighborhood, and he's been living uncomfortably ever since. Since then, there's been no contact from Michael. I had endured for years for the sake of my daughter, but I never imagined that she would take revenge on her cheating ex-husband for me. I hope to continue supporting each other and living together with my kind-hearted daughter. Mom, thank you for always protecting me. It's me who should be thanking you. I had no idea you'd become so dependable. You've grown up before I knew it, becoming such a kind person. I'm so happy. Now, it's my turn to work hard for her sake.